All right.
All right.
We are now synced.
Excellent. Okay. So a couple things. First thing, more important than anything is, thank you for letting me poop. That was great.
Hey, when nature calls, you've got to answer.
Indeed, and I had no choice. So, thing number 2, I'm going to start off by saying, Dear Brother, with Alex and Mark, is brought to you by absolutely no one. So I'd like to thank everybody for giving us a listen on our first set of uploads. We really appreciate it. And now we've got an easier way for you to find us. So you can go to dearbrotherpodcast.com, and you can see all of our podcasts that have been uploaded, and follow through to whatever listening service you use to listen. I think today we are available on what services, Alex?
Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Tuned In Radio.
Okay.
We are currently waiting for approval on Apple Podcasts and Pandora.
Okay. Well, yeah. So at some point here, probably in the next couple of weeks, we'll be on all of the services. But in the meantime, dearbrotherpodcast.com is where you can find us. And yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, really. Thanks for listening. And if you have any feedback, good or bad, feel free to just contact us at dearbrother411@gmail.com, which I think you also have a link to on the website. Yes, Mark?
Yeah. So the
perfect.
website is kind of like your go-to. If you go to the contact us page, you'll see our email. You'll also see our Twitter. So we are now on social medias, or maybe just the one social media, which
the one for now.
Which is counterintuitive, but nevertheless, we're there. So you can go on Twitter, and you can follow us on Twitter, and you can also comment on Twitter. So if you don't like what we're saying, feel free to tell us in whatever capacity you see fit, including using curse words and crazy conspiracy theories. We're fine with that.
Excellent.
Yes. Excellent news.
I look forward to those. I look forward to the trolls more so than the positive feedback.
Well, it's funny because, we've and anybody who's listening might be somebody who listened before, and you know who you are, and they're people we know for the most part, right? And I've had a few people come back to me and respond to some of the things that we've said, just in our conversations, and they've told me hey, I was listening. And you said something and I wanted to respond. So I was yelling at the computer, but you didn't answer. So I figured I'd text you. So,
I like it.
Yeah. So now there's Twitter. So you can use Twitter to yell at us if you like.
Excellent.
So this week, and I say week like we're doing a weekly thing. We're not really doing a weekly thing. We're doing whenever we feel like it at the moment. Maybe one day we'll do a weekly thing. But on this episode, we're going to discuss religion.
Yes.
So I don't know exactly.
Very carefully, we'll discuss religion.
Well, I don't know how careful we're going to be, but it's interesting because we've already discussed politics, and so we might as well cover religion. So at the risk of angering a lot of people,
yeah,
go.
I don't think we've ever discussed religion, you and I.
Of course we have.
I don't think so.
I find that hard to believe.
I think we've touched on it. It's one of those things that you kind of avoid.
Do I not know what you think about religion?
I don't think you do.
Do you know what I think about religion?
I think I do.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really just
you
who has
those cat poo.
I mean, if you want
For lack of a better word.
If you want to sum it up, I kind of do think it's all cat poo. But is it just you who hasn't shared with me what you think of religion?
Maybe. I don't know.
So it's your fault.
I suppose, yeah. Could be.
On today's podcast, I'm going to blame Alex for things.
Story of my life. Keep it coming.
Well, fine. What do you think of religion, Alex?
God, where do you want to start?
I want to start with what you think of religion.
I think it has its place in the world.
Okay.
But I think, like most things, people take it too far.
Okay.
Look, I went to Catholic school for 9 years, from kindergarten through 8th grade. So that's 9 years. And it wasn't like I was raised in a devout Catholic family. It was more so of a, I lived in a shitty neighborhood, and the public schools were really crappy, and I think my mom just wanted to avoid me getting my ass kicked daily. So I ended up in Catholic school.
All right.
Both me and my brother, which is ironic because my sister went to public school her entire life. She was just like kind of thrown to the wolves.
Well, your sister's a lot tougher.
She was also
than
the toughest of the bunch.
Yeah,
So.
your sister's way tougher than you and your brother, especially your brother.
Oh, I can't wait till he listens to this.
I
He's
know.
going to yell at the radio.
I know, that's why I said it.
So yeah, it was weird growing up going to Catholic school because when you're little, you don't know better, right?
Yeah.
But as you get older, you start to question things. And I'd say right around the 7th or 8th grade, things start to be like, this doesn't make any sense. When you start to learn about other religions, like the thing that always caught me by was when you start to become aware there's all types of religions, Judaism, Buddhism, Islam, all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I reached a point where I thought to myself, what if I spend my entire life praying to this Jesus character? And then I die, and if there's this afterworld, whatever, I get there, and it turns out there's this fat little bald Chinese guy waiting for me. And he's like, dude, you spent your whole life praying to the wrong God.
You idiot.
You fool. Right? And it's like, and that's when things started to kind of change a little bit. So when I say there's a place for religion, look, it's a good foundation, I think, for learning, to be good, not do bad, blah, blah, blah. But I think people just do that inherently, right? I mean, you're either a shithead or you're not.
I mean...
right?
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, to a degree, yes.
To a degree, I don't think people need to be told... Oh, well, let me take that back. People do need to be told because they're stupid, but... I mean, do you really need to be told not to steal, not to hurt others, not to be a dick? I mean, that's essentially what I've learned from Catholic schools. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
But I don't need to go to church for that.
No.
Right? And all the rituals that come along with it are they're kind of silly, Going every week into a box with a strange man to confess your sins. And then coming out of that box and having to say some arbitrary number of prayers. Like, really? That's how this works? I could go kill someone and then go to this box and say, hey, I killed somebody. Tell me some Hail Marys to say and I'm clear.
Four Hail Marys and 2 Our Fathers. You'll be good, son, my son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And truthfully, what the hell does a 7-year-old have to confess? Like, that was the weird... Like, I always had to think of things.
Mm-hmm. You had to make shit up.
Yeah, when it was school time, it was like, oh, we're going to confession on Friday. I was like, fuck, what am I going to tell this guy? Like, I really haven't done anything bad.
I've been fine. Everything's been fine. I'm doing my job.
Like, I'm 7 years old. I go home, I do my homework, I play with my G.I. Joes, and I go to sleep.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, we're not very far apart, you and I, and I didn't. But I
also look. I see religion as people need something to believe in. I think, right?
I have a lot of theories on that, and I suppose that this is a big topic, and we can go on for a very long time, and perhaps. I don't know. Do we go? I'm hesitating as to whether or not we go deeper into it because I immediately started going into like the way humans are and how religion is and what it means, and I don't know if I want to do that yet. I guess okay. Let me do this. Your story of how you feel about religion is almost exactly the same as mine. When I was maybe like 7 or 8 years old, I remember, maybe younger, I don't know. I asked my dad the question of, if there's a Santa Claus, then how come there are starving children?
Yeah.
And he kind of responded with, there's no Santa Claus. And I'm like, I figured. Like, haha, I got you. Why have you been lying to me all this time? And then like you, like in around, for me, it was ninth grade actually in particular. I remember in ninth grade social studies, we had this segment where we learned about religions. Not learned religion, we learned about them historically. So we learned about Buddhism and Islam and Judaism and Christianity and Hinduism and whatever else I don't remember anyway, but like generally the big religions. And the thought that crossed my mind almost immediately was, it was similar to what you thought, like, am I praying to the wrong guy? For me, it was, every one of these religions thinks that they're right and that the others are wrong. And so none of them are right. Like, you can't, like, if in Christianity you think your religion is the one true light, the one pathway to salvation, and in Islam you think it's another way, both can't be right according to the religions themselves, right? The religions themselves say the other religions are BS. They're lying to you. It's Jesus Christ who's the way. Judaism doesn't have it right. We have it right. And Judaism says, no, there is no Jesus Christ. He's not your salvation. He hasn't come yet. You're wrong. This is the way. The moment you have that sort of like logical counterpoint, it makes them all wrong in my mind. And that was my thought. It was like, oh, well, none of these must be right. Logically speaking, there can only be one. And if they all claim to be that one, then somebody's bullshitting somebody. And it sort of, for me anyway, it began my I guess journey to use that word of actually learning about religions. And the more that I learned about religions by actually reading the books of the religion, the more I understood them to be all some version of themselves in one way or another, and all of them to descend fairly quickly into, oh, and by the way, after all this other stuff that we taught you about how to be a good person, forget it, because it turns out the other guys are the bad guys and you have to hate them. I mean,
well, that's what I never understood about the whole religion thing is, all of them preach in some way, shape, or form love and peace and love thy neighbor, blah, blah, blah. But until they worship somebody else, then you don't love them so much.
Right. And that was, to me, the problem. And so, without diving too deeply into the thing, that kind of goes along with my theory that I mentioned on a previous episode was, the job of a group is to maintain and grow that group. And so whether it's religion or politics or business or friends in a fucking bar or whatever it is, there's a kind of like a tribalistic nature about it all. And I mean, like, all hail Catholicism for being the most successful business on planet Earth for the history of civilization. Well, but like, that's kind of, to me, when I look at Catholicism, and again, for everybody, I was raised the Catholic. I didn't go to Catholic school, but I did the whole catechism and communion and all that nonsense and whatever. And it was the same kind of sort of song and dance. And I mean, it's freaking brilliant what they did there, because you took, and this is true, I believe, of just about any religion for the most part, is you take the core fears of people. It's the fear of dying. It's the fear of the unknown. You take their core fears and you use it to manipulate them into giving you money. And it works. It works brilliantly.
I'll never forget when Barbara and I got married, we had to go through the whole pre-Cana nonsense. And because, she and I didn't want to get married in a church. We wanted to do some sort of outdoor ceremony, either in a park or at the beach or something. But her parents are like hardcore church-going people, and they basically told us, look, if you don't get married in a church, then it's not a real marriage, and blah, 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 blah. So we didn't want to start off our life together under this intense, weird vibe with her parents. So we just said, look, we'll just do the fucking wedding in the church and be done with. So that was a whole hassle in itself. I had to go back to my old school to get all my records to prove that I was baptized and the communion. And it was. So we did the whole pre-Cana thing, blah, blah, blah. We go to the church. I'll never forget, we met with the priest, and we were going over the logistics of everything. And he goes, when we all wrapped up, he's like, oh, there's a recommended donation of, I think it was like $500 or something ridiculous. So I go back to him, oh, you mean a fee? He goes, no, it's a donation. I said, well, if it's a donation, then I should just be able to give you what I can afford. So, maybe $50 or $100. He goes, no, the recommended donation is $500. I'm like, so it's a fee.
Right. This is just
And
call it what it is, man.
yeah, he started to get agitated, and I was like, okay, whatever, we'll write you a check because that's what we got to do. But it's a fee. It's not a fucking donation. A donation, again, it's something that you can spare.
Right.
Right. It's the collection plate every Sunday. You have a nickel in your pocket and you want to give it to the church. You give it to the church. It's a donation. When you're telling me there's a set number, that's a fee.
Yeah. Yeah. The minimum recommended donation means this is how much it costs to do this here.
Right.
Yeah.
But I guess they can't call it a fee because
Nope.
it's all nonprofit and
Yep.
tax implications and whatnot.
Yep.
But yeah, it's all shenanigans.
Yeah. I mean, every corporate structure, every business that operates under some format of corporate structure, CEO, middle management, executive vice presidents, whatever, every single one of them learned that from Catholicism. They were the ones who create, and I'll say this like it's a fact, but I'm sure it could be argued. So feel free to argue with us at our Twitter account, which is, what's our Twitter account?
Oh God, I don't remember now.
Dear brother _pod.
Dear brother _pod. Yes.
Twitter at Twitter.
Memorize these things.
At twitter.com
At twitter.com.
or however the hell that works. I don't know. Follow us.
Just go to the website.
Just go to the website, dearbrotherpodcast.com. Anyway, so yeah, you can argue with us there. But like the Catholic Church effectively invented that corporate structure because Pope and Bishop and Cardinal and priests, it's a hierarchy of business and management and span of control with the ability to, like, how many people can the priest handle? Well, not enough because he needs other people at the church to handle. And, well, the cardinal can't handle that many people, so he needs lots of priests, and then the bishop. And so, like, that's what it is.
Yeah, and look, they don't do good things, Catholic charities. I mean, the church does help the community. Let's not paint it as this awful entity. Completely.
Every religion that is recognized by any state as being a religion has the requirement to help the community. So there's that. But yes, I will admit that as far as Catholicism goes anyway, and other religions as well, they do good things. I said do. I mean, heck, I'm here in the United States because of Catholic charities. When my family was trying to escape civil war in the old country, they got to the United States because of Catholic charities. They effectively were war refugees, and which allowed me to be born here, which is great because, I can say shit like this without problems.
Right.
For now, anyway.
For now.
So yeah, I think it is worth acknowledging that religion and the church do good things, because I'm going to spend the remainder of our time talking about religion,
doing bad things,
bashing the shit out of it, because I think it's actually a detriment to civilization in the long term. But that's just me.
Yeah, I don't think it's a detriment. I mean, I'll listen to your points.
Well,
but
yeah, because I have a
I
microphone.
don't have a choice.
I have a microphone. That's how this works.
It's the more I've thought about it, once I've had kids, we did the whole baptism thing with the two kids, but then we stopped. Like, we haven't done communion because, and Barbara and I spoke about it, and it's just like, well, like, we don't go to church ever. Like, the only time we go to church is if someone dies or if someone's getting married.
Right.
Or if someone's baptizing their kid.
Right.
That's it. I'm not going to church on Sunday. I'm not going to church for Easter. I'm not going to church for... I don't. It's not what I do. So we talked about it, and it's like, well, why are we... If it's something we don't necessarily believe in, why would we subject our children to it? You know what I mean?
I do.
If it was something that we were into and, we wanted to pass it along, then we would, but we don't. So we made the decision. It's like, look, we're just not going to do these things just because society tells us to, right? Because, if you're a Catholic, you have to get your kid baptized, and you have to get communion. No, I don't. I'm not practicing. It's not what I do. When she gets older, or when either one of them gets old enough, and they want to explore it further, and they want to do those things, and we'll support them either way,
Yeah.
but we just didn't feel it was necessary to throw this onto them, right? Like doing the whole Sunday school thing. It's just it was, and I don't know if it's doing harm or good to my kids. I question that often.
I would argue. I would argue that it can be very clear that you can be a good person that does good things for others, that helps people, that follows a path of I don't know, morality and understanding and empathy without the need for religion. And so even in scenarios where, and we can use the examples of the people that we know who went through, did all the things, counted all the beads, fucking hopped on one foot, dipped the finger in water, etc., and are still assholes.
Yeah.
And so, again, it comes down to a logical question. Like, your kids are not going to be horrible monsters because they aren't going to Catholic school or going to church, because that's not how it works. So
no, like I said earlier, you're either a dick or you're a good person.
Right. And so
right.
Fundamentally speaking, I can't. The only reason I would say that it might be doing your children harm is if you and your wife neglected your children to a point where the only place they could learn anything of value would be in a church. And that's not happening.
No.
So, like, yeah, you can teach somebody not to be an asshole without the need for them going to a building and dropping a coin in a tray every week.
I always liked lighting the candles. I always found that funny. Not funny, but it's like, I'm gonna go light a candle. Something's happening. I gotta go light a candle. I'll feel better.
Yeah.
But I think that's the whole point of religion, right? It's to make you feel better.
I don't disagree. I think that's, let's take that to a bigger scope. I think that's the point of ritual. Ritual and tradition, I think, are the things that make you feel better, because here's the truth. If you believe, actually, that when you, and we're bashing on the Catholics because we both raised Catholic and it's more fun that way, and Catholics are easy to beat up on. If you believe that every time that priest puts that little fucking cookie in your mouth that you're literally eating the flesh of a previously deceased and then risen again Messiah, then you are missing a huge point about the universe and the world and how it actually works. And got nothing to do with it, bro. That's not it. It's a symbol.
If only it was a cookie.
If only it was a cookie. Yeah, really, it's just
tasteless,
it's a stale,
awful wafer. Why couldn't they make it something good? They would get more people to church.
Beef jerky.
Communion tacos. If they had communion tacos every Sunday, I might be more inclined to go to church.
And then I may be more inclined to believe that there's Jesus meat in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I get a little bit of lunch and I get a little lesson. It's not bad.
A little lunch.
Instead I get this stale ass piece of cardboard.
Yeah.
With no flavoring. Leaves a bad aftertaste in your mouth. You walk out of church with like poop breath. It's like, what's the point, man?
Communion jerky, brought to you by the Dear Brother podcast. Get your Sunday taste of Jesus Christ. Feel the Holy Spirit in your teeth through the entire afternoon. I always have trouble pronouncing the word. Do you know it? Transmufiguration. I'm going to have to look it up. But that's the word, whatever that word is. That is the word that describes that the moment the priest blesses and gives you the host, that it in fact actually turns into the flesh of dead Jesus.
Mm.
And the wine literally goes from being wine to being his blood. And a former coworker of mine really used to say this all the time, and I found it very enjoyable, but it's zombie Jesus.
It is zombie Jesus.
Yeah, zombie Jesus Day.
We're eating his flesh and drinking his blood.
Yeah.
Delicious.
But it's reverse zombie. It's a reverse zombie thing. Like, we're eating the flesh of the zombie instead of him eating the flesh of it's fun. It's reverse zombieing.
Reverse zombie. I never thought of it that way. It's such a crazy ritual and concept.
Well, so I go back to the whole thing about the rituals are what make you feel better, and I think that's true. It may not be the only thing, but I think that that's partially true anyway. And it's weird because for me, it's the thing that doesn't make me feel better. Like I've always found the rituals were the thing that alienated me more from religion than anything else. Because I would go into
Yeah.
I would go into a church, I would go to a wedding or a funeral or whatever, right? I would go, and all I could envision was people dancing around a fire with spears. Like to me, there was no difference between standing and sitting and kneeling and standing and sitting and kneeling and chanting. There was no difference between that and being barefoot in the desert, dancing around a fire, for rain or something or whatever tribalistic.
But you're a savage if you do that.
It's the same thing, though. I mean, for fuck's sakes, with the candles and everything. Like, there's your fire.
That's true.
There's a staff in there. Priests are holding fucking staffs and incense, and I don't know. All that stuff to me just lines up to be the same sort of thing, and it doesn't matter the religion. We're beating up on Catholicism because it's a lot of fun.
It's what we know.
But I spent probably a good part of my 20s reading all of the holy books that I could get my hands on.
You're out of your mind.
And that includes Dianetics and the Book of Mormon. So you could see where my thoughts lie about what religions are and how they interplay. But for a very long time there, I viewed it as partially like, hey, I'm going to find one. I'm going to find one of these that speaks to me. And then I also viewed it as I'm going to find a way to distill these down so that way I can understand all of them as much as possible and then argue them as best as I can. And both of those things were true to some degree. And then annoyingly, I stumbled upon Buddhism. Not stumbled upon it. I was on my way to Buddhism, and I found Buddhism, and I started learning about Buddhism, and I started reading all of the tenets and the forms and the types and the beliefs and the things, and I was psyched for a while. And I really was like, oh, hey, I found one. Like, this is sweet. Like, this religion speaks to me. Like, I get it. I get what they're saying, and I believe these things. And then it was like, oh, and then also, if you don't do a good job here, when you come back, you'll come back as a worm instead of whatever. And I'm like, oh no, why did you have to ruin it with nonsense words? And
what was the nonsense? The concept of reincarnation, or just the concept of life after death?
It was the concept of reincarnation, because the concept of reincarnation to me was the same as the concept of life after death, because it was the same tool used by both religions or cross religions to get you to behave a certain way here, now, in an effort to preserve some kind of unknown future paranormal nonsense stuff.
So it's interesting you got to that point, because the older I get and the more I think about things,
I like things.
The conclusion I've come to with religion is it's really just something, the end game of it, or I think what drives people to it or to be so into it, is the need to explain death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fear of
and
death.
The idea that there is something after it. Because when you think about death and there being nothing there after it's done, it's terrifying. To most people, to a lot of people. I think about it sometimes and it scares the shit out of me. So I could see how having a glimmer of hope, even if deep down inside that's probably not true. Having something to grasp onto, to go, well, when I die, at least there's something afterwards. Right? So that way you don't have to come to grips with the reality that there isn't. It's lights out. End game.
I'm going to say this, and I don't know if it's true, because, well, I don't know. This, to me, seemed like an easy transition for me to make from being told that there was heaven and hell to believing that it was nonsense. I felt like it was an easy transition. The day that I decided that I don't believe there's an afterlife, I don't believe there's a heaven, I don't believe there's a reincarnation, I believe that once you're dead, you are dirt, and that's that, and you don't know any different, and you will never know any different, and that is the end of it. And the moment I started thinking that way, I started to realize that it made my presence on the planet even more interesting, special, and valuable, and therefore meaningful than it ever did if I believed there was an afterlife. If I believed that all I needed to do was go into a booth, tell a dude what I did. He told me to say a couple of prayers, and I would get into paradise. Then why would I really ever care about doing good things here and now? Like, really? But because I believe here and now is the only thing we've got, I am way more inclined to make sure here and now is as good as it can be for me and the people around me. Because once it's over, that's it. It's kind of like the idea of immortality. Like, you ever watch like any one of those shows or like a vampire thing where they talk about immortality, and the dude that's been immortal and been around for hundreds of years, all he wants to do is die.
Yeah.
Because he's like been around forever and it sucks, and he's like, oh, this is meaningless. I can do whatever I want and nothing changes.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we're only here for a brief period of time makes it special. And in my opinion, if there was something afterward, that it wouldn't be special anymore. So I'm okay with it. I mean, I say that, but like, who knows what's going to happen the day like I'm on a deathbed somewhere, wherever my deathbed ends up being, going up like, oh fuck, Jesus, I've changed my mind. Probably not, but like,
Save
you never
me,
know.
Jesus.
Yeah, but seriously, like I just so anyway, so with Buddhism anyway, that's where when I hit that point, I thought like, these guys are enlightened. They're properly enlightened. They're saying all the right things about like understanding the moment. Being careful about your behavior as it impacts everybody around you. There's a strong sense of empathy within that religion, and then it's all, but also if you don't do these things, you won't have a good afterlife, and you won't or have a good reincarnation. And I was just like, fuck. Like you taught all of the lessons necessary to get your point across. You didn't need this one, but people, you're right. People
need it.
People need it. People are afraid of death. And they are afraid of the unknown. That is the key driving force behind it. Because if you knew what death was going to be, you probably wouldn't be nearly as afraid of it as if you didn't know. So it's the fear of the unknown. And if religion has any advantage, or it has any, it's the advantage over anything else, is that it attempts to explain that unknown and at least in some way alleviate that fear. That's a thing that, for all intent and purposes, the scientific method cannot do. And at least it hasn't anyway. Maybe one day it will be able to, but
science has explained everything but what happens. I mean, science can just tell you, the lights go out, you're done.
Right. I mean, there's why we're here and what happens afterwards and all of those things. You really can't get those answers through science. That's where philosophy and religion start to fill that gap. I argue you don't need that gap filled, but obviously that's not the case. People need that gap filled, I think. Sometimes you just need your gap filled.
There's a bumper sticker. Write that down.
That's the name of the episode. Sometimes.
I was going to go with communion tacos, but this might be better.
You just need your gap filled. T-shirts available coming soon at dearbrotherpodcast.com.
Oh, God.
Yeah, buddy.
I would have pegged you for a Buddhist.
Dude, we've known each other for nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
We know who we are. I mean, it's not like...
I know who you are, but I'm saying Mark now. I could see you saying to me one day, oh, yeah, I'm into Buddhism. I'm like, all right, that makes sense.
I'm into Buddhism the way that I'm into anything that I think makes sense, if that's even a reasonable sentence. I'm into... Because here's the thing. If you read Dianetics...
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
And then, no, trust me, it's okay. You don't have to. If you read Dianetics, and furthermore, if you go into it deeper with the secret papers of Scientology, what you'll find in those writings are elements of reasonable truths. There is a general, and you'll also find a lot of crazy shit. There are elements of things about the process by which Scientology sort of indoctrinates its people. And to put it broadly, there's basically a test, and the names of things are blanking on me all of a sudden. But there's basically a test, and you sit down with a meter that is functionally it's a galvanic response meter. It measures the the resistance of your skin through sweating and salts and things like that. So it's partially like a lie detector test.
Mm-hmm.
And you go through these interviews, again, with the name is escaping me at the moment, where you are asked to recall memories that are bothersome to you. And you do so repeatedly, right? And you do so until the meter no longer spikes. So you hold these things and you tell a story about something bad that happened to you, and you have this reaction, this negative anxiety-driven reaction. And you keep telling that story over and over and over again until you no longer have that reaction. And in their world, it's called being clear of that thing. Now, without going too deep into Scientology, because they're a very litigious group, and I don't really want to get into any of that nonsense.
Say, yeah.
Tread
lightly.
But the point, yeah, and I think I am. The point of that, though, is it's sort of like talk therapy in a lot of ways. You're talking through your problems to a point where you're no longer allowing them to impact you because you're getting them out. That is a functional good thing to do. Now, in Scientology, I believe they utilize it for other methods, which can be dangerous and detrimental, but whatever, that's up to whoever would like to follow what Scientology does to understand. But within the point of the story is within each religion, with each teaching, each book, no matter how crazy it might seem, there are elements of truth and there are elements of good. And then what happens is that you capture this element of truth and good. And in order to get people to listen to you for longer than a moment, you need to start wrapping it up with all these other things. You need to put some bells and whistles on it, because telling somebody it's not okay to kill people because killing is bad isn't good enough. You've got to give them all sorts of steps and methods and reasons to stay within the fold. And that's where religions, in my view, start getting off the wall. And for Buddhism to me spoke the most clearly to me about the way that they think about the universe. But yeah, there's a lot of praying and there's a lot of chanting and meditation, to some of which I will say meditation is a very helpful thing if you can do it. I recommend it to anybody who's willing to give it a try, and it doesn't have to be Buddhism. It just go Google meditation and pick one and do it for a little bit. It's rather a good thing. But like Buddhism started to snowball for me, and then it, like I said earlier, it hit that point. It didn't make any sense because I was like, fuck, you guys were so close. You had taken all the elements of like existence, and in my view, you had kind of like you wrote them in a couple of really good lines, and there were some T-shirts, and I was all for it, and I got it, and then you ruined it because you needed to have a group. Now, that being said, in an effort to continue to bash on Catholicism,
back to the Catholics,
Buddhism has done a very good job of not becoming that group, even though they do believe certain things that I think are outlandish and just the same. But man, those Catholics are good at making an organization and making you feel bad about not being a thing, like not being part of it.
Yeah, Catholic guilt is a real thing.
Oh, it's a real thing. I still have it. I'm
40
years old, and I've been out of the thing for years, and I still feel it.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Well, I also think shame is a natural part of humanity, and if you're not feeling ashamed of something at some point or another, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yes and no. Sometimes I find myself being guilty, especially like at work, for things that really have nothing to do with me. I just feel bad about things, and it's just like, why do I feel this way? It's not that I'm blaming Catholicism.
No, it's because of Jesus. You feel that way because of Jesus. Let's blame Jesus. Blame Jesus. Holy crap, that's another T-shirt. I'm telling you, we got to write these down. You can find T-shirts for sale coming soon at dearbrotherpodcast.com.
Look at you peddling your goods.
Blame Jesus. Yeah. I think we did all right there. Yeah, talked about stuff.
We didn't get too crazy. We didn't. I don't think we alienated anyone other than the Catholics.
I'm sure we alienated somebody.
Look, you believe what you believe in. I'm not knocking people for believing in Catholicism, Judaism. I don't. It's when you take it to extreme. It's like politics, right? I don't knock Republicans. You want to be a Republican, be a Republican. But when you take it to extremes, and the same goes for Democrats. I mean,
yes.
Any form of extremism to me is bad.
The middle way, by the way. is one of the central tenets, no pun intended, of Buddhism. The middle way. The
It's
middle
funny.
path.
There's a coworker. Who
There's a
just got in-
coworker who just got. Sorry. I
wrote
felt
a
like
song about it. He just got into Buddhism,
Mm.
and he and I talk frequently. And he knows that I'm high strung and stressed out and always all over the place. And he's like, dude, you should really look into Buddhism. You'll mellow out. You'll learn not to.
He's not wrong.
He's like, you'll learn not to freak out about things. You learn how to take the good and deal with the bad and blah blah blah. I was like, yeah, I don't have time for that shit.
He's not wrong. I will say, and this is not an effort for me to get anybody to go and check. Oh, please check out Buddhism. It's true. Buddhism does kind of sends you down this path of like, that's not so bad.
I've got Buddhist monks 2 blocks from my house. It's fantastic.
Cool. You should go fucking hang out with them. There's a Buddhist monastery not too far.
Yeah,
from
that's
there,
a monastery. I see them all the time in the summer too. They're little orange robes and their bald heads and they're out
Yeah.
gardening and stuff.
I'm telling you,
I don't think I'd fit in.
You know what? I don't know that you would, but with the exception of the things that you don't have to become a monk to be a Buddhist, but okay. Although that might be so here's the thing. Maybe to be a Buddhist, you do need to become a monk. I don't know. Anyway, it's true that you will learn to let go of a lot of things that you've been holding on to unnecessarily, let's say. And it's because the viewpoint of Buddhism is very much of acceptance and a middle path and calm and reasonable and empathy. And there's a sect of Buddhism, I believe it's Jainism, which is a very similar thing, but it's like a portion of. Anyway, it holds that all life is sacred, regardless of what life it is. So the earthworm is as sacred as the cow, is as sacred as the human. And you can hear America rumbling with all the flag waving Jesus people out there being like, fuck earthworms. I'm more important than an earthworm. Okay, maybe you are, but if you stop and think for a moment that you are just as important as an earthworm, it changes your perspective about how you treat other things and people as a result. Nobody becomes an enemy anymore. Everybody is an extension of yourself. And when you think about things that way, it does calm you quite a lot. Namaste.
Like hippie talk.
It is hippie talk.
Damn hippies.
Damn goddamn fucking hippies. For those of you who don't know, and some of you do, maybe a lot of you do, I am currently wearing a tunic. Hail originally, from a heritage perspective, from the Fertile Crescent. Have a beard with long hair. So I look just like Jesus Christ.
It's true. You're the closest thing.
Huh? And when you boil it down, I look like a hippie. In fact, I smell like a hippie too.
Still bathing in patchouli.
I fucking drink that shit. Yeah, buddy.
Religion, ain't that a thing?
Ain't that a thing? There's a whole other segment to this where I believe religion is actually detrimental to society. But it's not one of those things like you could argue, and it's a very easy argument to make. Lots of religions, but good old Catholicism is really good at killing people.
I was gonna say wars have been fought over it. So yes.
I mean, literally, like all but like 1 or 2 wars in our history are about religion in some way, shape, or form. Right? It's about the other. It's about I don't like them because they're different or wrong, or they believe the other thing, or they don't believe the thing that I believe, or whatever, which kind of goes back to one of our t-shirts available for sale, coming soon on dearbrotherpodcast.com. Stop liking what I don't like. It's one of the best lines I've ever heard. That actually, by the way, comes from Colorado, Alex. We're going to start up a new website, he and I. I'm just going to help him through it, but it's really his. It's called Berkshirts.com.
I like it.
A division of Birkenstock Industries.
I still need to meet this other Alex.
Yes, he would like to. He would also like to meet you. There's, by the way, for everybody, there's 2 Alexes in my life.
We'll meet, and then there's a battle to the death because there can only be one.
I can't wait. It's gonna be so.
Prepared.
It's gonna be so damn sexy. So, yeah. Yeah, I think there's aspects of religion that are detrimental. And yes, you can point to the wars and the fighting and the killing and the hate and the anger and all that stuff that comes along with it because, hey, with the good comes the bad. It's true. But I also think that when you believe that you are right and therefore others are wrong, and that as long as you follow the rules of the thing that you believe, you're going to get to a place like paradise, then it doesn't matter what you do here. Then your intentions lean toward self-preservation and hatred towards others. And maybe it's not quite as extreme as that with everybody, or it's not quite as black and white, but that's where I believe the ultimate thing ends up, right? If I, like let's say, for instance, you were Jewish and I were Catholic, like devout, right? And I believed Jesus was the savior and you believed Jesus was a dude. We would be on, opposing sides of a critical, universe-altering argument. And, I mean, one of us would think differently about the other to some degree, even if we wouldn't admit it or we wouldn't let it affect our behavior or our decisions. One of us would think that the other was wrong and going to go to hell or something. And that, to me, when you think that way, that's just dangerous. And I think that when you utilize rituals and traditions of that sort to alleviate a fear that is really just an ignorance of reality, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. And I think to me, this is me speaking, and this is where I anger people. If you are afraid of things, it's because you don't understand them. And if there's things that you cannot understand that you are still afraid of, it's best to let them go. Jesus, out.
Jesus speaks. As he sips his coffee. Is that the coffee of Christ?
It's the coffee of Christ.
Excellent.
Coffee of Christ.
Amen.
Egg sandwich of Christ. Can I just tell you, as much as I love it out here in Colorado, I would easily kill somebody in another religion for an egg sandwich, a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich.
Yeah, they still don't have those things out there.
I mean, they have them.
You can't get them the way it's different here.
You get it's a farm raised egg with heritage bacon on a ciabatta roll with aioli sauce or some shit. And I want bacon, egg, and cheese on a fucking Kaiser roll, and I want it wrapped up in foil so that way it sits for a couple of minutes and just does its perfect thing where the yolks kind of slides into the bread a little bit and
cheese
it's soft.
Gets gooey.
The cheese gets a little gooey. The bacon's crispy and low quality, but it's perfect. So good.
Yeah, you can't get that anywhere but New York.
And it's partially because of that Kaiser roll. So having worked in a bakery many, many years ago, that Kaiser roll that everybody in the Northeast, but in particular like New York, New Jersey, enjoy, that's a frozen puck that's received in a large bag, delivered by a truck every other day, that gets thawed out and baked. It is the lowest quality bread on the planet, but it is perfect for an egg sandwich.
It's a low quality sandwich, but it's delicious.
It is. Then that's the thing. Everybody tries to spruce it up and be like, I'm going to make it better, and they ruin it. Ruiners. Although I will tell you that the breakfast burrito is ubiquitous here, and that is a very special thing.
Yeah, I had a couple of those when I was out there. They are delightful.
They're wonderful, and there's all different types.
And you can't get a good breakfast burrito here.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what.
Go to bed.
I'll meet you in Missouri. You bring egg sandwiches. I'll bring burritos.
Excellent. We'll have a breakfast sandwich exchange.
Breakfast. We'll have a breakfast. I'm a big guy. I need a big breakfast. I went down to the deli and I got a hungry man. I told her I need 3 eggs, ham, bacon, sausage, and cheese, salt, pepper, ketchup on a hero. I'm a hungry guy.
What are your thoughts on ketchup on eggs?
They are. I believe ketchup to be an abomination. Ketchup is the worst. Anybody and I mean this sincerely, so for whoever is listening out there, please share with your friends. If you consume the vile liquid known as ketchup, then you should be stricken down from this earth because it is horrible and you should be ashamed.
Then I guess we can't be friends anymore. This is the end of the Dear Brother podcast. We hope you enjoyed the 8 episodes that we put together, but my affinity for ketchup has now ruined this relationship.
I've always known that you loved ketchup.
I don't love ketchup. I like ketchup on certain things.
You're a ketchup lover.
I wouldn't call myself a ketchup lover, but I do like it.
Are you
Ketchup on a burger is delicious.
Are you a ketchup hater?
No.
Well, then you're a ketchup lover, my friend, because there can only be two kind.
Fair enough. Then I love ketchup.
Fight to the death. It's good. It's good versus evil. It's black versus white.
All right. The ketchup lovers versus the ketchup haters.
Fucking ketchup.
Why don't
to
you
hell,
like it?
to hell with all of
What's
you
bad
who
about
like
it?
it. It's just it's first of all it's a child's liquid, and
T-shirt right there. Ketchup, it's a child's liquid.
ketchup. I'm actually writing this down. Hold on a moment.
You should write it down. Because I know there's a lot of people out there who feel the exact same way as you do.
Yeah, it's actually a very polarizing thing. So here's the truth why I don't like ketchup. Growing up, there were a few people in my life who were very, very picky eaters. One in particular, actually, who sticks out in my mind, who shall remain nameless. Very picky eater, like didn't eat anything. But for whatever reason or another, put ketchup on anything he did eat.
Okay.
And did so in a way that I found to be grotesque. It was the sheer quantity of ketchup, the vile odor of the vinegar, the stale vinegar that would then remain on him for hours later. He would smell of ketchup, and his fingers were red, his fingernails filled with encrusted ketchup bits, and it really grossed me out. And I've known a few people like that, where like you'll go to a diner and you'll have some fries and they will just evacuate an entire bottle of the vile liquid onto their French fries, and it's like, how can you taste anything? Why don't you just get a fucking straw and jam it in the goddamn bottle of ketchup and just drink it and then go home?
I am going to start sending you little packets of ketchup in the mail. Just randomly, sporadically. You're going to get a little McDonald's ketchup packet.
It's funny the contrast. I just moments ago was talking about the tenets of Buddhism and acceptance, and fuck ketchup.
You can't accept ketchup.
No.
Well, maybe that was his way of getting food down. Like he didn't like the taste of it, so he needed something to
fucking grow a pair and learn how to eat like a human being.
Does he still now eat ketchup that way?
I don't know. I haven't seen him in a very long time, but of course he does. Because what fucking horrible monster
Maybe
transitions from that horrible, wretched...
How old was he when he was doing this?
Right up until early 20s.
Okay. All right. Well,
I mean, and here's the thing. Hold on a second. You know a man who did this. You know a man. I made him cry on a couple of occasions at a job site. You know who he is, and so will your brother when I say this, and if he's listening, you know who I'm talking about, and you are now laughing.
Is that the same person who ate tuna fish with chocolate milk?
Mm-hmm. You watched him use multiple pints, if not gallons, of ketchup on his food, and the pile of napkins that filled the table, and the open mouth talking, and the spittle, and the... Ugh.
All right, look, that behavior as an adult is questionable.
It's extremely questionable, and I would argue that anybody who consumes ketchup as a child is destined to do that as an adult. So shame on you, parents, for giving your children ketchup.
It's fucking insane.
You almost got coffee out of my nose there.
Yeah.
So you like ketchup?
I like ketchup. Bacon, egg, and cheese, salt, pepper, ketchup. That's the combination right there.
Okay. Yeah, I don't put ketchup. It's salt, pepper. Salt, pepper.
Fair.
I like a hot sauce, though.
All right.
A little Tabasco.
Little Tabasco.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us on this week's podcast. You can find us at www.dearbrotherpodcast.com.
We went quite off the rails on this one.
All of our
But it was good.
episodes are available for a listen and a download. Feel free to subscribe to our podcast because we would like you to. You can follow us on Twitter. You can get to all this stuff through our podcast website. Yeah, the website. So thanks for listening. And next,
Don't put ketchup on your sandwiches.
don't. Yeah, if you use ketchup, please unsubscribe because I don't want you here.
Mark doesn't want your kind listening to us.
That's it. There you go. That's the new thing. It's ketchup or not ketchup. If you're a ketchup, we don't want you. Wars will be fought over it.
That's right.
To hell with your ketchup.
If hell exists.
Crap. Damn it.
You don't believe in hell, Mark.
How do I even talk anymore? I can't use colloquialisms.
Hey, thanks for listening to our podcast. You could find us on Twitter at dearbrother_pod or on our website, dearbrotherpodcast.com.